Yes, I know you've heard it said many times before, but I'm going to say it again. Sparing is one of the most important aspects in bowling and is an area that many overlook and struggle with. We've all heard expressions like strike for show, spare for dough, but it's absolutely true. You've probably heard old school coaches tell you that if you get 9 spare every single frame and then a 9 count in the fill, then you'll get a 190 game. And yes, that's absolutely true, and it's true that spares will greatly increase your average. There are so many league players out there that could add 10, 20, maybe even 30 pins to their average in some cases if they significantly improved their spare game. But it's not just the direct impact it has on your scores. Having a solid spare game gives you momentum. It can be a slippery slope if you miss 1 or 2 spares. Your confidence slips, maybe you start to overthink the next spare which you then miss, and then your game goes into full meltdown. Sometimes missing an easy spare can frustrate you so that it will actually affect your strike shot, and suddenly you're in danger of losing your head and making bad shots, all because your spare game let you down. If you're making your spares, however, you go onto autopilot and suddenly there is a flow. You're not thinking, you're just doing. You might get 3 in a row, leave a single pin, maybe a standard combination, but you calmly make the spare, move on, and then strike out. When your spare game is solid, everything else falls into place. Have an inconsistent spare game, and your average will suffer not only from the lost pins, but also the effect it has on the rest of your game due to a lack of flow and confidence. And I think that second part is something that not enough people realise. Or if they do realise, they're not quite sure how to go about fixing the problem. I see so many bowlers who struggle making spares consistently, and maybe you're watching this right now knowing that you aren't as good at spares as you'd like to be, but there's good news. There's actually some really simple solutions that you can bring into your game, and I guarantee if you do, you'll see a big improvement. I've picked out the 3 main reasons why I think many bowlers have a poor spare game, and I will give you the solution so that you can start picking up your spares more consistently. Let's start then with reason number 1. You don't have a system. This is a big one. So many bowlers out there just guess when making spares. They don't have a system or any sort of game plan in place. What do I mean by a system? Well, there's mathematical systems out there that are designed to show you exactly where to stand for each spare. It takes all of the guesswork out, and if you follow the system, you will see a lot of improvement. An example of a spare system is called the 369. Now, the 369 system is very simple. You keep your target exactly the same as your strike shot. All you need to do is move your feet either 3, 6 or 9 boards. For example, let's say you're right-handed and you leave a 2 pin. Well, you would move 3 boards to the right, bowl the same target as your first shot. Now the theory is that because you've moved 3 boards, the ball is going to hook more, which means it will hook past the head pin and hit the 2 pin. If you leave a 4 pin, you move 6 boards to the right and hit the same mark. Again, the ball in theory will hook more and go towards the 4. If you leave a 7 pin, this time you go 9 boards. And if you leave anything on the right hand side, for example from the 3 pin, you would go 3 to the left and then 6 and 9. This is a really good system for beginners because it simplifies everything. You don't have to start aiming towards the pin, you're just throwing your strike shot as normal but making the relevant move. Of course, this system is just a guideline and it's always dependent on the lanes that you're bowling on. You may need to adjust this slightly, but it's a good starting point. It will start to give you consistency. I see players make the mistake of trying to hook the ball across the lane and even move the wrong way so that it normally overhooks, and then they scratch their head wondering why that happened. But with the 369 system, it's easy to follow and it gives you a base to work from. Once you get comfortable, you can personalize it to suit your game. Yes, it's an old system, but that doesn't make it bad. I still use it myself sometimes, particularly on house shots, and I will say on sports shots, this system probably isn't ideal, but on easier patterns, it does work. I wouldn't just recommend it to beginners either, to be honest. I think it's very useful for anyone who feels their spare game is inconsistent. And I think by practicing this system, it will start to get your mind thinking in the right way of how you need to attack certain spares. And more importantly, it will gain you confidence once you start to make them more often. Reason number 2, you try to hook all of your spares. This is a problem many bowlers have. They will try to hook at all their spares, whether it's a leave on the left or the right. I've seen many a league bowler try to hook the ball at a 10 pin and then be surprised when it hooks off right at the last moment. Learning to flatten out your release is crucial, and if you can do that, you're going to pick up a lot more spares, particularly multi-pin spares. I mean, the ideal solution, in my opinion, is to throw the ball straight with a plastic ball at all of your spares. This is a little bit of a difficult skill to master, but once you do, it will greatly benefit your game. When you get on more difficult patterns, trying to hook at spares can bring a lot of problems and inconsistencies. There is a reason why the majority of the pros now throw straight at all spares, because that way nothing changes regardless of what conditions you're bowling on. Throwing it straight takes the lane out of play. But I do get that a lot of players struggle bowling everything straight, particularly if you're a right-hander going for a 7 pin, for example. If you struggle with this, then I think a good start is to work on flattening your release, especially if your speed is lower. You've just got more chance of chopping these kind of shots if you're trying to hook the whole lane. Even on house shots, once the lanes break down, you can start to get inconsistencies and misses can creep in. Straighter is definitely greater when it comes to spares, in my opinion. If you can bowl straighter at your spares, you will become more consistent. Reason number 3, your mental game isn't as strong as it could be. This is another big one that I touched on briefly at the start. So many bowlers let their mental state affect their spare shooting. A big one is the 7 pin for lefties and the 10 pin for righties. Bowlers create a mental block. Many can make any other spare with ease, but when it comes to that one corner pin, they just can't seem to make it. A big reason for that is that they've convinced themselves they're going to miss before they've even thrown the ball. They are spiraling downwards, and it only reinforces this belief the more they miss. It really is a confidence and belief issue. You can make that corner pin. If you can make a 4 or 6 pin, then you can make the 7 or 10. It's that simple. What is standing in the way is fear, doubt, and a lack of self-belief. We've all had periods where we just can't hit that pin for the life of us. The only thing I can recommend is to try and take all thought out of the shot. When I've gone through periods where I can't spare the 7 pin as a lefty, I would start taking much more time on the shot, really trying to concentrate and focus, but it didn't work. It actually made it worse. I ended up forcing the ball more often and missing it more because I was trying too hard. So what I did instead was to do the opposite, and I started to literally just put my fingers and thumb in the ball and just go straight away. That way, I took all thought out of the shot. I didn't even have a chance to think because I literally started my approach almost before my hand was fully in the ball sometimes. But that really worked for me because that way I didn't even have a chance to overthink. I just picked up the ball and went and did not even think about anything. And surprise, surprise, I do that now and I make it far more than I ever did. The other mental game issue that plagues bowlers is that they allow one missed spare to affect their entire game. We've all done it, but you simply can't allow one shot to ruin an entire game or indeed an entire set. If you find yourself missing, just try and take the thought out of it. Go back to the basics. This is why I recommend getting to know systems like the 369, because even the most experienced bowler can have a bad day, and sometimes it's those little things that you forget And just going back to basics and having that kind of system to fall back on can just bring you back into the right place. The worst thing you can do is tense up and start trying. Believe in yourself that it was just a minor blip and that you are a good spare shooter. Remember that we tend to remember the bad misses far more often than the hundreds of times that we've made that same shot. I think all of the reasons I've mentioned do play a big factor in many bowlers missing spares, and I think the biggest problem a lot of players have is consistency. It really can be one day they make everything and then the next day they're missing really easy shots, and it confuses bowlers. They don't understand why they're so inconsistent. But the truth is, they don't have a good foundation. You know, if you have a good foundation in certain skills, as I mentioned, a good system, you know, a strong mental game, a good understanding of how you need to go for your spares. Because at the end of the day, I spoke about throwing it straight. Now, I still think that's a preferable option, but it's whatever works for you. If you can make all of your spares by throwing a hook, then do it. But it's what works for you, and that's what you need to figure out. The 369, for example, again, it's a good starting point, but it's whatever works for you. You need to learn to adjust it. But I think these three things that I mentioned, and hopefully the tips that I've mentioned throughout, will start to help you improve your spare game. Like I keep saying, consistency is the key, and it's consistency that's going to really see your average start to rise. If you start to analyze the things that I've spoken about and analyze your spare game and start to make some of the changes that I've discussed, you will definitely see an improvement to your scores. Like I said at the very start of the video, it's not uncommon for players to start adding 10 or even 20 pins to their average. And especially if you're around that 180 average, maybe 185 average, that really is 2 spares away from being a 200 average player. So make this your goal for 2026. Really dive into your spare game. I want you to think about the type of shots that you struggle with and think about why you're missing certain spares. I'm sure for quite a few people, the big one will be the mental game, as I've spoken about. You know, having that mental block about a certain spare or allowing the misses to affect your other shots. Once you've analysed your biggest weaknesses, only then can you start to make changes. I hope this video has been of use to you and that it will start to get you thinking about your game and the areas that you need to improve on. If you have enjoyed this one, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button below. And if you'd like to see more of these type of videos, then please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, that is going to do it from me for today. And as always, thank you, bowling fans, and see you all next time.